today I'm going to be doing my final book haul of 2020. I actually haven't done a ton of book hauls this year, and that's mostly because I haven't actually bought a lot of books this year. I mean, to be honest, I have bought a fair amount of books over the course of 2020, but I've also been trying to make a concerted effort to read the books that I'm buying. So there's not a ton of new books added to my TBR from 2020. I mean, there are still some, and I obviously have been continuously buying books throughout the year, but I don't think that I've been buying them at quite the same volume as I have in previous years. It makes me feel a little bit better to feel like I have a little bit of a handle on my book buying, a little bit more control of my book buying. I mean, obviously it's all self-control, but I haven't just been like making a bunch of like willy-nilly purchases throughout the year. I've really been trying to buy books that I think I'm going to enjoy. And so while I have bought books over the course of this year and I have done book hauls, obviously, I'm really happy with the way my book buying went in 2020 overall. And I'm really excited to share my final book haul of the year with you. I have 11 books to talk about in this video. I have read some of them, but most of them are getting added to my TBR. But these are all books that I'm super excited about, that I kind of already have plans for in 2021. So I am really excited to show these books to you, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start with one that I've already read, and it's one that you're probably really sick of seeing on BookTube, but it's one you'll probably continue to see, and it's one you'll definitely continue to see on my channel, as it was a favorite book of the year for me, and that was The Invisible Life of Addie Larue by V.E. Schwab. This is V.E. Schwab's newest release. It came out earlier this year, I think in October, and I read it pretty soon after it came out, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it just as much as so many other people have. I feel like this is one of the most hyped books of the year, and I don't say that just because it's V.E. Schwab. I think that V.E. Schwab in general is always a pretty hyped author, but I think that in general this book was getting so much praise from the very beginning of the year, and so I was super excited about this one, and I went into it with some super high expectations, and I really ended up loving it. If you don't know, this is about a girl named Addie Larue who, when she's like 22 years old and she's living in 1700s France, she makes a deal with a devil-like creature man thing that she will essentially live forever, but she is cursed with the fact that nobody will remember her. Every time she leaves somebody's presence or somebody goes out of the room, they forget her immediately, and she essentially lives with this curse for over 300 years until one day she meets somebody who actually does remember her. And this is all about Addie's life, her story, and also about this boy who remembers her. I really loved this book. I would definitely recommend it, although I don't think it's for everybody. I think that it's definitely got a very specific kind of audience, but I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend checking it out if you think that it's something that you would enjoy. Next up, I've got books 1 and 3 of a series that I really love, and that is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, and Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow. These are both by Jessica Thompson. This is in the Nevermore series. Nevermore is, of course, the very first book. I've read this book twice now. I read it back in 2018, and then I read it again last month, and it kind of just solidified itself as one of my all-time favorite books, and I hadn't ever bought it for myself. The first time I read it, I got it from the library, and so I felt like it was time to actually own my own copy of it, and I decided to get it right around the time that the third book, Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow, came out. This is the third book in the series, obviously, and I don't really know much about it because I haven't read book 2 yet, although I've owned book 2 since it came out. So I just decided that it was time to get the first book and eventually get on with the series, and so I have books 1 and 3, and obviously book 2 is on my shelf somewhere. This is a really fun adventure middle grade series. It's kind of fantastical and whimsical and just a ton of fun, and if you haven't heard of Nevermore, or if you haven't checked it out, I would definitely recommend doing so. It's about a girl named Morgan Crow who has basically lived her whole life believing that she is a cursed child and she is supposed to die on her 11th birthday, but instead of dying on her birthday, she ends up getting whisked away to the magical land of Nevermore, where she is given the opportunity to go through these trials, to join the Wondrous Society, and things unfold from there. And it's just a ton of fun, one of my absolute favorite books, and that's saying something considering I don't really love middle grade, but I love this book, I love this series, and I'm so excited to continue on and eventually get to book 3. While we're on the subject of series, I'm going to show an entire trilogy that I bought over the course of the last couple months, and that is The Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club. Is that what it's called? The Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club trilogy, starting with The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, all by Theodore Goss. This is a book that I've seen for the last couple of years, I've seen it floating around BookTube, and I haven't really heard too much about it. I've just seen it in places. I've seen people talking about it, hauling it like I'm doing now, but I haven't really seen a ton of reviews for it up until this year, when I was just seeing that everybody was reading it and everybody was really loving it, and it sounded like something that I could really enjoy as well. So I decided to pick up the first book, but they were having a really good deal on all of the books, so I ended up just buying the entire trilogy, and I have it. When I'm ready to just dive into something super fun, I have the entire trilogy. This is about a girl named Mary Jekyll. She is the daughter of Dr. Jekyll, and she meets some girls that are also the daughters of like famous literary characters, and I think they go on adventures. I don't really know much about it, to be honest. I think it's kind of like mystery, and there might be some fantasy involved. I don't 100% know, but I'm really excited about this trilogy. I've just heard such good things about this trilogy over the course of this year, and I know that it's something that I'm going to enjoy. So I decided to just get the whole trilogy, and maybe I'll do a little like binge reading vlog of me reading this entire series at some point in 2021. A couple months ago, I read Middle Game by Shauna McGuire, and then I found out that Shauna McGuire was writing a book called Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Baker. If you've read Middle Game, then you'll know that this book plays a really big part in the Middle Game story. And right around the time that I decided to read Middle Game was when this was coming out, and so I decided to just go ahead and get it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited to. This is I think it's more like YA middle grade maybe, and I believe it's a portal fantasy. It's kind of in the same vein as her Wayward Children series, but completely different, obviously. I think you can read Middle Game and this separately, like they stand on their own as two completely separate entities, but I think that I will get more out of it now that I have read Middle Game. So I'm excited to get around to reading this, and I believe that she is writing more in this series. I think I've already seen the announcement for like at least a second book in this little series that's coming out, and possibly more in the future. So I'm really excited about having this. I really love Shauna McGuire's writing style. Even though I didn't totally love Middle Game, I loved the writing style, and that's something that is constantly drawing me back to reading Shauna McGuire's books. So I can only imagine that this is going to be just a beautifully written, really fun story, and I'm excited to get around to reading it at some point. Another book that I saw kind of like a hyped all over BookTube this year was Watch Over Me by Nina Lacour. This is Nina Lacour's newest release. I don't know a ton about it, but I feel like it is kind of different from all of her previous books. For the most part, up until now, she's written like hard-hitting YA contemporary, and then I think this one leans a little bit more speculative, a little bit more fantastical. Like I said, I don't know much about it, but I think it's set on a farm, and the farm is full of ghosts. I might be confusing it with another book, but I am really excited about reading this. I absolutely love Nina Lacour's writing style. She's one of my favorite authors. I've pretty much given 4 or 5 stars to everything that I've ever read by her, and I feel like this is going to be no different. Considering I have only seen like rave reviews for this book from people that I really trust and whose reading tastes I typically tend to align with, I feel like I am going to love this, and this is going to be one of my top priority reads of 2021 because I feel like it's going to be amazing. The next 2 books I actually got for specific videos that I was planning on doing in December, but then I just ran out of time and didn't get around to like actually trying to make these videos at all. But I have them obviously, and these are still videos that I'm planning on making in 2021. So I have the books and I'm excited about them still. So I'm gonna show them to you. The first is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is historical fiction. I believe it's set kind of in the 1940s, but also in present day. And it follows a girl who gets kicked out of college, and so she goes to live with her aunt in New York City, and she gets caught up in like a nightclub scene, and then she's telling the story of her life, I think maybe to like her granddaughter or something years and years later. I feel like it's going to kind of be similar to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo in the fact that it's an older woman telling her life story to someone younger, and it's also historical fiction. It's set in the 1940s. It's all about this like glamorous lifestyle of these showgirls, and I have only ever heard amazing things about this book. I've literally never seen a negative review for it. I've also never read anything by Elizabeth Gilbert, but she's an author that I've definitely wanted to check out for a while, and so this is one that, like I said, I have it in mind for a specific video that I'm hoping to make in January, but even if I don't get around to making that video, it's one that I'm still really excited to read, and it's one that I think I'm absolutely going to love, so I'm excited that I finally own it. Next up, I've got The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. This is I would classify it maybe as kind of like a millennial fiction type of story, but it's also got like a sci-fi, like speculative element. It's about a town where people go to sleep and they don't wake up, and then this like sleeping sickness starts killing them. And I think it's going to be a really interesting read, considering it's kind of about a pandemic, and we're obviously going through a pandemic right now. I have read Karen Thompson Walker's previous book, The Age of Miracles. I read it a couple of years ago, and I didn't totally love it. In fact, I actually really didn't like it at all, but I really did like the writing style, and I liked the way that she crafted the characters in that story. And I've heard that this book is even better than that one, and so this is one that I'm really excited about getting to. Like the previous book, I have a specific video in mind for this book, but I am definitely planning on reading it in 2021, and I honestly really think I'm going to love it. And finally, the last book I have to talk about in this video is American Sherlock: Murder, Forensics, and the Birth of American CSI by Kate Winkler Dawson. This is a true crime-esque type of story all about the forming of CSI in the United States, and I'm really excited about reading this. I have gotten so into true crime in the last couple of months. I've gotten a little bit obsessed with especially true crime TikTok, and also I've kind of been listening to some true crime podcasts here and there, and my two best friends are really into true crime, and so we're always watching like true crime documentaries, and they're just, you know, they're always telling me crazy stuff, and so I've been kind of getting a little bit more into it. And this is a book that I saw like on a list of best true crime books in 2020. I really love watching crime shows as well, and CSI is one of the shows that I watch, and it's kind of always on like a loop for me. I will watch CSI constantly, especially when I'm like going to sleep at night. So I am really excited about checking this book out. And I would also really love some recommendations of some of your favorite true crime books, because like I said, I'm getting more into it right now, and I just kind of like want to expand my true crime library and also just read as much as I can possibly read. I feel like 2021 is going to be the year of nonfiction for me, and this is one that is super high on my list of books to read next year, because I just think I'm going to really enjoy it. And I also think that I could learn a lot from this book. So I'm excited about it. So there you have it. Those are the 11 books that I have bought since my last book haul. Obviously, like I said, this is my last book haul of 2020, and probably my last book haul for a little while, because I don't really think I'm going to be buying any more books for a little bit. And also, I own a ton of books that I need to read, and I'm definitely going to be prioritizing my own books in the new year. I went to the bookstore the other day because my in-laws gave me a gift card for Christmas, and there wasn't anything like just super jumping out at me right now, and I think it's because there's so many books on my own shelves that I'm excited about that I was having a hard time getting excited about anything in the bookstore. So I feel like that's a good sign that I don't necessarily have to spend any kind of like gift card or money as soon as I get it on books. I can probably just wait and see what's coming out and see what I might be interested in the future. For now, this is my last book haul for a little while, but obviously for 2020, and I couldn't be happier to be ending the year with a really fantastic selection of books to read. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and what you thought about them. Which of these books that I haven't read do you think I should prioritize? Which of these books do you want to see reviews from, or do you think I need to get to sooner rather than later? I'd really love to know all the things down in the comments. Also, let me know some books that you bought recently, or maybe a book that you're super excited to buy soon, or just the book that you're really excited to read next. I'd really love to know all that down in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!